This video is sponsored by World Anvil. Well, we did it. I am finally in a new space. Gone are the days when you have to worry about cars driving by directly outside of the room I record and being really audible during the recording process. I know you didn't know that was happening until kind of recently, but I did, and it was bad and frustrating. This is not going to be the final setup, obviously. In fact, I may not even end up recording in this room. We're still getting sorted, we're still figuring everything out, we're still doing some construction, renovations, a little bit of things like that. But I am ready to start recording videos where I do not have to worry about, somebody driving through a telephone pole and knocking out our power. That never happened while I was recording, but it did happen twice a year. I was in that condo for 10 years. Anyway, on to the video. Here's what the Dungeon Master's Guide says about buying and selling magic items. Unless you decide your campaign works otherwise, most magic items are so rare that they aren't available for purchase. Common items, such as a potion of healing, can be procured from an alchemist, herbalist, or spellcaster. Doing so is rarely as simple as walking into a shop and selecting an item from a shelf. The seller might ask for a service rather than coin. In a large city with an academy of magic or a major temple, buying and selling magic items might be possible at your discretion. If your world includes a large number of adventurers engaged in retrieving ancient magic items, trade in these items might be more common. Even so, it's likely to remain similar to the market for fine art in the real world, with invitation-only auctions and a tendency to attract thieves. In your campaign, magic items might be prevalent enough that adventurers can buy and sell them with some effort. Magic items might be for sale in bazaars or auction houses in fantastical locations, such as the City of Brass, the planar metropolis of Sigil, or even more ordinary cities. What's wild is that I forgot this section was in the DMG, but I've been drifting toward this mindset for the past couple of years. Some other time we can discuss whether this level of rarity is the right approach for D&D's balance. That's another topic entirely. But the reason I like this approach is because, personally, I want magic items to feel special. On the occasions that I have included shops that buy and sell magic items, I've tried to make these shops feel bizarre and unsettling, with doorways that disappear for weeks and then reappear in a new location, run by people who are either super creepy, sinister warlock types, or just very obviously hags. But honestly, every time that a player at the table has asked where they could go and find and buy a magic item, I've become more and more resistant to the idea at all. And lo and behold, here it is. I was supposed to have a Dungeon Master's Guide in my hand for this part of the video, but it's in a box somewhere. But it's been here the whole time. A confirmation that the way I think about magic items is not only not unique, but intended by the game's current creators. I know magic item shops are part of the tradition of D&D for a lot of people, and they also appear in dozens of video games that draw inspiration from D&D. These same video games that inspire others to get into D&D. And that might be why some people feel like magic item shops are part of their fantasy, part of the way they want to approach the game. But honestly, part of the pressure that I might have felt to include these magical item shops in my games might have been because of the magic item shops in the two biggest actual play shows at the beginning of 5th edition, Critical Role and the Adventure Zone. Both shows had magic item shops that were not only just fun locations run by memorable NPCs, they were some of the most iconic elements of those campaigns. Critical Role has had 3 major magic item shops at the time of me writing this script. Gilmore's Glorious Goods, run by Sean Gilmore.
I'm sorry, was I being summoned?
The Invulnerable Vagrant, run by Pumat Soul, and Pumat Soul, and Pumat Soul, and Pumat Soul.
Respectfully, I think you just got sold.
And The Trove of Marwa, run by Marwa and Dahlia.
Oh, was this yours?
No,
Okay.
it wasn't mine. That was Harold's.
Oh, who's Harold?
Harold's the guy we used to travel with through the wilds.
Oh.
You might want to watch that.
Okay.
What happened to Harold?
He's dead.
Oh. Did something in the wilds do it?
Yeah, no, it was terrible. You should probably clean it.
And of course, the Adventure Zone had Fantasy Costco, run by Garfield the Deals Warlock.
You see him sort of drifting to and fro. We've never described Garfield fucking at all, which just explains why most of the fan art of him is literally the orange lasagna cat. And I'm not about to start now, but he's drifting around and sort of getting things packed up.
But of course, Two things on that. One, these are shows meant for entertainment. And two, probably more importantly, those are their games. But they're not mine. There are also rules in Xanathar's Guide to Everything that offer some guidance on what to do when a player wants to buy a specific magic item. But they don't really confirm that a magic item shop as we know it is part of their assumption. Oh, the air just turned on. Now that does not mean that there is nothing in these books that you could point to as an argument in favor of magic item shops. I mean, obviously there are rules for buying and selling magic items. You can easily extrapolate and say there should be a magic item shop because it's clean and it's easy and it works. And arguably more persuasive, at least to my way of thinking, there's this piece of art in the Dungeon Master's Guide, in the magic item section. It might not be a magic item shop, but it really looks like a magic item shop. But of course, this is just like anything else in D&D. It's up to taste. And your answer to this question will tell you a lot about your style as a dungeon master. I can't say this for sure, but I suspect that magic item shops feel more at home in D&D if you grew up playing games like Legend of Zelda or, Pokemon. Because really, what is a Pokeball but just a magic item? I know it's science, but really it's not. But aside from Pokemon, the stories that I grew up on never had these sorts of shops in them. So they don't fit into the fantasy that I'm trying to capture when I'm running my games. I'm referring to both meanings of the word fantasy here. Not only the genre, but also the wish fulfillment that I am trying to achieve in my games. Likewise, I think we as dungeon masters are often looking for ways to make magic items feel more important. There are supplements and other advice out there about how to make magic items that level up with your characters. Because if you don't go that route, then the alternative often features your players discarding magic items as they obtain new ones, which makes it hard for your player to have an iconic magic item like Mjolnir or Excalibur, which is a bummer when you're trying to capture that sort of vibe in your game. Players might not even know that that's what they want. They may not say, I want to have an Excalibur, I want my own Mjolnir. But they might feel the absence of that as they discard the +1 longsword in favor of the flame tongue longsword, and then they discard that in favor of the giant slaying sword, and so on. So if we're trying to solve that problem, and not everyone is, but I know a lot of dungeon masters who are, then a magic item shop where these items can just be purchased, it feels like a step in the wrong direction. But magic item shops are also extremely convenient. I mean, yes, there is a little bit of extra work involved in figuring out what to stock the shop with, but once you've done that, you have this fixed location that the party can come back to anytime they want to upgrade their gear. It also gives your players a way to spend the gold that they find out in the wilderness. Without magic item shops, you kind of need to provide other ways for the players to spend their gold and put it back into the economy. Otherwise, the players will keep looking at their character sheet and going, holy crap, I have 7,000 gold. What am I ever going to do with all this? Anyway, yes, I will take my share of the gold that we just found in this castle, so I will just add a 1 in front of the amount of gold I have, because that's easier. And now a word from our sponsor. Hey, you down there. Just moved houses, huh? Congratulations. Well, you've got a game of D&D this weekend. Do you feel ready? Do you know where your campaign notes are? Oh, they're in that box. No, that's a box of DVDs. Oh, it's in that one. Okay then. That's also DVDs. Uh-oh. Looks like someone can't find the information about his world, his characters, or his story. He should have used World Anvil. World Anvil is a digital tool set that helps game masters keep track of their notes for their settings and log the details of their campaigns. Not only that, but the toolset is so robust it can handle anything you throw at it. You can upload maps and customize them with different layers, so all of your information from countries to geography to timelines is all in one place. You can create a basic account for free, or use the code SUPERGEEK to get 40% off of any annual membership. That way, you don't have to worry about losing your notes and having to postpone your game for the 6th time in a row. Once again, that's worldanvil.com and use the promo code SUPERGEEK for 40% off of any annual membership. The other argument, at least from my perspective, and you may not feel this way, but I feel like magic item shops make no sense. Like, in the narrative of the world, they make no sense. How many people in your world can afford to buy magic items? I don't even feel like there are enough people in the world carrying enough gold that a vendor could justify opening up a shop. I feel like it makes far more sense to say that if there is a magic item in town, it is in the personal collection of a very wealthy individual. Now, players, do with that information what you will. But again, this is personal taste. I don't like D&D worlds that feel like they were constructed around the idea that there are just a bunch of adventurers running around, because to me they feel too artificial. That's why I had to stop running my games in the Forgotten Realms. At least in the 5th edition content I've read, it felt fake, like it had been built for adventurers and nothing else. Now obviously that's true of every D&D setting and every D&D adventure, but I just personally don't jive with the specific approach that the Forgotten Realms takes to achieve that goal. It's just not my style. Which of course brings me to my final point, which I've already said, but I'm really gonna drill down on. This is entirely up to taste. This is all totally subjective. And while I will maintain that magic item shops do make magic items feel less special, like I don't feel like that part is up to debate, that just might not bother you. In my West Marches game that I discussed a few months ago, I had a solution that sort of split the difference. There was a vendor who could sell anything that you could find in the player's handbook, but that was it. Until, of course, players started coming back from some of these missions with magic items that they couldn't use. Then they'd sell these to the shopkeeper for a little bit of extra coin. And then the shopkeeper would add that item to his inventory and it would be available the next time a player stopped by the shop. Now that only worked because I had a lot of players. And not only did they not all go on missions together, they didn't even all interact with each other. Another solution I like is to have a faction of rich jerks that is just out there trying to get their hands on magic and magic items. And then I'll have auctions in my world where this faction and others can show up and try to bid on magical items. Because that, I feel, at least gives the magic items the value, no pun intended, and the significance that they should have. The value and significance that I feel gets lost when the item is just sitting on a shelf with a price tag on it. Sure, a player in that magic item shop will know the magic item's blue book value or whatever, but the item loses significance in the world and in the story. But having an auction for these items, or, you know, a heist, that gives the players an opportunity to earn the item. Even if they still end up buying it, they're doing so in a way that isn't easy or straightforward. In another campaign, as a reward for saving the city, a guild of wizards laid out a bunch of magic items on a table for the players, and they allowed each player character to choose 2 items. The players still got to choose the magic items they wanted from a list available to them, but they weren't walking around picking items up off of store shelves in a shop that made this their main source of business, because that just wouldn't make any sense to me. It never really has. Now, I usually still have potions and scrolls available for purchase because that's just not something that bothers me in the same way. I'm even fine having a shop that specifically sells potions and scrolls. I know the Dungeon Master's Guide just said it's actually really hard to find those too, but again, it doesn't bother me as much. And yeah, that is a completely arbitrary line in the sand to draw on this subject. But I think that's okay. Every line that we draw when we're world building is basically arbitrary. But you can actually learn a lot about your style from where you draw those boundaries, and which storytelling instincts you prefer. I don't know for sure if the next campaign I run will have a shop where players can buy potions and scrolls. I just haven't decided yet. But I know that a shop like that is way more likely than a store where they can buy magic weapons, or a figurine of wondrous power, or even a bag of holding. But that's just me. That is just how I think about magic item shops. What do you think? Is there some aspect of this that I haven't considered that's really important to you when you run your games? How do you handle magic item shops, or how would you handle it if you were running a game? Please let me know in the comments below, because I want to hear more about this. I want us to talk about this, and I particularly want people who are trying to figure out what they want to do in their own games to look in the comments and see other opinions than just mine. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, there are 4 ways you can do that. You can subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about new videos when they come out, which, by the way, is every Monday and Thursday, 2 videos a week. You can support me on Patreon. Every new patron gets me closer to some of the goals I have to improve this channel. Even if you only donate like $1 a month, that still helps a lot. But also you get some cool stuff at later levels, so look into them. You don't have to go with them, but just look into them and see what you like. That's it. You can join my Discord server and meet other people who are talking about D&D and subjects like this. There's some really cool conversations in there. People learn a lot. I learn a lot. It's a great community. And the fourth way you can support the channel is by signing up for my newsletter and getting occasional updates about what I've got going on. All those links are in the doobly-doo below. Until next time, play fair and have fun. And no cars drove by the entire time. Well, actually, cars did drive by, but you didn't hear them. There's other things I like about the house, too. It's not just the cars.